London, the global financial centre, is the best brand there is in the world.
Young girls.
They want to see pain, so do I!
What do you want from me?
We do this my way.
I trust you.
Captain Jones giving you more funds if I'm his wife. Take care of it.
You tell me, the way she performed in my operation.
My child and my good looks. You got up to your little boy.
Just not for the broker business.
Oh my gosh!
The establishment.
Don't come in my club and threaten me.
You better tell me what I want to know.
History is not made by the truth. It's made by what people believe is the truth.
I'm the most respected in my field. Do the right thing.
Please, I want to live. One white boy, one cool brother. Let me show you what they do to pretty boys like you in prison, yeah?
Take a stand.
Definitely not your driving.
Okay. Good morning, folks. This is David Peace Monroe with the Marilyn Monroe Show on Jess TV in Lethbridge, Canada. Tremendous project with global distribution, folks. You can tune in by Google searching jessfm.ca, www.jessfm.ca, ssh101.com. We are also a global distribution television network, folks. You can live stream us on Roku TV, Android TV, Apple TV, Fire TV, Meta TV, and the NCG television network in Italy with global distribution, folks. Tune in every Sunday morning to the morning show, the Marilyn Monroe Show, with your host, David Peace Monroe. And today on the show, folks, I've got a fabulous guest live streaming here from London, the United Kingdom. His name is Farid Jamal Khan. I like to call him my brother from another mother. We both train with one of the greatest, if not the greatest, kickboxer in martial arts history, Harold Diamond. Harold Diamond was the greatest K1 kickboxer in the world. Over 400 professional fights, undefeated, never got beaten. He used to tell me over in Thailand that people didn't like him because nobody could beat him over there in the Muay Thai kickboxing. K1, folks, is a premier stand-up combat sport, meaning K1 means best striker. Those are 3-3-minute rounds. The greatest K1 fighter, aside of our late mentor, Harold Diamond, was a K1 fighter named Branko Cikatic. Branko Cikatic was 133-2. Those two losses were to our late Grandmaster, Harold Diamond. Harold Diamond was the trainer to the Grandmasters. He did a tremendous amount of work with Jean-Claude Van Damme in the film Universal Soldier, if you recall, as well as he was good friends with Sylvester Stallone. And he worked on Rambo 3 in the famous stick fight scene in Rambo 3 cross Sylvester Stallone. The film MMA Cop is dedicated to Harold Diamond, Grandmaster, and the martial arts choreography by Farid is Harold Diamond's fight choreography. So welcome, Farid. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, David. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about things that I guess, like you certainly would appreciate, and I'm hoping a lot of your followers will appreciate as well. So yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be a rockin' great hang, man. And Raheem, I want to start out with some open-ended questions about your life journey. Then we'll go into your fitness and martial arts career, how that developed to your acting career, how that developed into your films Extreme Raheem, that your first film Extreme Raheem, that are available on Amazon Prime, Tubi and other streaming platforms that people can watch. They can also watch your new feature film that's been released. You let that out on Tubi, and I believe that's Amazon Prime as well, where people can go watch that, starring Eric Roberts. Now, folks, if you're an actor or you're in the motion picture industry, Farid Jamal Khan is a tremendous inspiration. This fellow went out and made a movie on his own. He went to Comic-Con. He met a producer named Timothy Beale, who's a close personal friend of mine. Timothy Beale has worked with Dwayne Rock Johnson. As you guys know, Rocky, Dwayne Rock Johnson, Timothy Beale is his manager. And he runs around with Dwayne Rock Johnson and all of his family members. So you lucked up, you met Timothy Beale at Comic-Con. He went out and got you an A-lister to be added to the film, and Eric Roberts from Batman. Everybody knows Eric Roberts. Eric Roberts is running around like a chicken with his head cut off in this movie, that movie, and the other movie. He's an outstanding actor. So, man, you know, going out and spending your own money to go out and meet these people, pay the producers, pay the actors, act, do the martial arts choreography, you know, go get a great cinematographer, a great editor. You have some CGI and VFX integration into the film where a fellow throws, the bad guy throws a grenade at you and it blows up. And those were good effects in the movie. The martial arts choreography was dynamite. The acting was great. The actors were great. The bad guy, the villain, he was a great actor. And folks, the film MMA Cop is predicated on child trafficking and snuff films over in the United Kingdom. These are realities in the motion picture industry. You have these elite people that have money, and they pay for people to be murdered on film. So the synopsis of the film is Farid as Detective Tyson Shabazz. And Tyson Shabazz meets a woman who was sex trafficked, and she escaped the clutches of the bad people. And she meets Farid, Detective Shabazz, and Tyson Shabazz, who he plays as the role in the film. And he goes after all the bad guys and kills a bunch of people using our great late Grandmaster Harold Diamond's fight choreography. So let's go into, to begin, your life's journey, Farid, how you got into martial arts, and fitness, and your basketball, and you know, your Extreme Raheem film, and then how that developed into your acting career and MMA Cop. Let's tell the folks about Farid Jamal Khan, my brother from another mother.
Thank you. That's a pretty tall order, so I'll try and give you like the streamlined version. So, I mean, I've been a fan of cinema and martial arts, and kind of like blending those two together, like since, you know, as far as I can remember. I grew up on Power Rangers. That was probably the show that you know, that demonstrated martial arts, and it had like, you know, an array of different characters, and that was something that definitely, and to this day, inspires me, you know. And I've gone on to have met a lot of the actors from the original show, and so that was like, I think most people who kind of like get into martial arts young, depending on the generation, that was one of the main things. But then obviously I got into watching movies that maybe I shouldn't have necessarily been watching, you know, at a certain age, you know, violent. I don't think by today's standards they're that violent, but like, you know, when you look at Rambo, when you look at, you know, Terminator and stuff like that, it's, you know, they're pretty violent, you know, kids shouldn't be watching them, sort of thing. So I mean, yeah, watching all those things, especially Beverly Hills Cop, I would have to say that was the most special one for me. That was the one that got me thinking, because a lot of people forget that has an element of martial arts in it. Like Eddie Murphy throws a kick or two, so it's still, you know, there's still like some sort of combat, you know, in the final scene, you know, he throws a kick, so he throws a few punches and stuff, so it's still and action comedy, and I think that genre was, and that whole period of movies, obviously in the UK, that, you know, we had channels, we had limited amount of channels, not like in the US where you have cable and stuff. Obviously now, yeah, there's an array of stuff, but I'm going back 20 years, you know, and stuff to, or plus, you know. So it's I've always been watching movies basically, and then like dreaming, okay, this is what I want to do. Of course, with most people, you know, I'm not the only person to have done that. I'm sure most guys, boys and girls, you know, have those type of dreams. But then, you know, as life happens, as life continues, as, you know, people kind of like, yeah, go through this journey that is life, their dreams kind of like go, and they kind of let go, and they think, you know, reality is to kind of like let those dreams go and do something, I don't know, like proper or settle down or whatever phrase or term you want to use. People kind of like want to do that. But for me, that vision, that dream, you know, that seeing myself carrying on that tradition of, you know, Stallone, Eddie Murphy, Van Damme, you know, all those guys, that never left me. And of course, you know, I'm talking about the big films, but I was also a fan of the very obscure films. So like with action stars that a lot of people today have unfortunately forgotten about, you know, like the Jeff Speakmans, like Don the Dragon Wilsons, like, you know, Cynthia Rothrock, and, you know, all those, you know, it's you know, because it was a huge genre, and then it had like subgenres. So that got me into loving the martial arts as well. I started doing karate, I think when I was about 7 or 8. I didn't like it. I think I was somewhat intimidated, not gonna lie, because I was a kid and there was people who had been doing it for a while. They had their gis and everything. I didn't have a gi, I remember. And I tried it, and it just, I don't know, it didn't resonate. So then after that, after a few years, I tried kickboxing. And I was like, this is more a sport, but it's something that I can apply. I love to throw kicks, but I also love boxing in itself. You know, I grew up watching boxing as well. I had an uncle that loved boxing, was a boxer himself. So I'd watch all the, you know, especially the heavyweight championships. And Prince Nassim was a big thing. You know, he was, you know, in the 90s, he was very, very popular. So, but the kickboxing fights and stuff, I didn't grow up watching because I didn't really have access to watch those type of fights. It was more, you know, boxing. But kickboxing itself, that's something I started when I was, I want to say about 12, 13. And then, yeah, I continued with it. And then I stopped for a while, and then I went back into it, and then I stopped for a while. But that was something that I really enjoyed, and that was a martial arts I stuck to. There was a couple of friends at mine that did different martial arts. There was a friend that did judo, but other sort of styles didn't really, I don't know, didn't speak to me at the time anyway. This is going back when I'm a kid, and obviously when, you know, when your formative years, you kind of like fleet between different things, you know. But I was very physical, and you know, I liked to do it. So, but then during that period, basketball was a big thing for me. It's still, I mean, even now, it's not as huge as it should be in the UK, but basketball was a really, yeah, it was my favorite sport. It became my thing. So much so, I got scouted for the 2012 London Olympics. Didn't make the team, but at least I got scouted for it. You know, I was in the running for it, and so that was pretty cool. But there isn't. I think now it's funny. Now they have this sort of thing where they're trying to like bring British players they're trying to nurture their skills, you know, and kind of bring them abroad to Europe and to the US. But back when I was doing it, it was super rare, super rare, you know. I think I can only think of like one or two British guys that made it to the NBA, you know. So it's, and the amount of people who are talented, you know, in basketball, it's amazing, especially in the States, you know. But yeah, that above all else, I think at a certain point in time, that was really what I wanted to do. I wanted to try and get a scholarship to, you know, play, you know, in college in the US and make it to the NBA. That was a dream that I think it became, you have to rely, same thing like, I guess bodybuilding in a way, I equate bodybuilding to it, because I'll tell you why, because you're relying on other people to give you that chance. Even if you're sculpted and everything, you're letting people judge your body, you know. And same thing with basketball. You can be the best, but you might have a bad day when you're being scouted, you know, and then, you know, it will be, you know, it won't be your day, basically. So, but anyway, without going off tangent, basketball was literally my biggest thing, basically. But you have to have that. There's a window of time for it, basically. There's a window of time. And when I said that, I was like, okay, might not happen. Years later, I was like, the only dream that still stuck with me
We've
was...
lost the audio. Okay, we're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, the audio.
Oh, okay.
For just a second.
So the only thing that stuck with me was filmmaking. And in 2026, the paradigm of filmmaking has changed. It's very much a case of, if you want to get a film made, if you want to be seen, if you want to have a product where you're pushing yourself, whether it's a director, whether it's an actor, or just a complete filmmaker, you have the opportunity to do it yourself. You don't have to wait on anyone. Now, it might not be the best. It's always great to do it through a studio where they give you like $300 million and you can do all the car crashes and explosions and stunts that you want. But until you get to that point, I think with a lot of people who want it, it's a case of how bad do you want it, because you can go out there and do that, you know. Whereas with other things like sports specifically and stuff like that, there is a window of time. Unfortunately, there is a window. But then at the same time, I say that, but I don't truly believe there's a window. If there's always when there's a will, there's a way. I mean, look at Rocky Balboa. You know, he wanted to fight. I think chronologically in the movie he was 60. I think he was 60 in real life anyway. And you know, there you go. He wanted to have a fight. You know, and he made it happen. You know, he fought in Las Vegas. You know, now that doesn't apply to everybody. You know, but it's really a case of how bad, you know, do you want something, you know. So it's passion and perseverance, and you know, it's kind of like what I've just mentioned is what makes me who I am today. Hopefully that makes sense.
What a great deal, Jamal, you know. And just a quick station identification break, folks. Again, my name is David Monroe, Marilyn Monroe's nephew, with the Marilyn Monroe Show on Jess TV in Lethbridge, Canada. A tremendous project with global distribution. You can Google search us at jessfm.ca, www.jessfm.ca, ssh101.com. And we are global distribution, where you can live stream us on Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, Meta TV, and the NCG television network in Italy with global distribution, folks. Tune in every Sunday morning to the morning show, the Marilyn Monroe Show, with your host, David Peace Monroe, only on Jess TV. Also, Jess TV Live, Jess TV Live on Facebook. And speaking about Sylvester Stallone, you know, you did the MMA cop movie predicated on Harold Diamond's fight choreography. Now, Harold Diamond was a good friend of Sylvester Stallone out here in the San Fernando Valley where I'm at. We trained at Benny Urquidez's, the the Ben and Jet Center out here in Van Nuys. You also had Cynthia Rothrock. You had Don Wilson that you mentioned that are friends of mine. I've got pictures on the red carpet with all of those mixed martial artist events. They're going to be in upcoming films of mine. And Sylvester Stallone, after the Rambo film, he got Harold a pair of snakeskin boots. And Harold was so proud of those snakeskin boots that Sly bought him. He wore them everywhere. So he was good friends with Sylvester Stallone. You know, he worked with Dolph Lundgren, Jean-Claude Van Damme, all the big players in mixed martial arts. So extremely impressive that you go out and make a movie predicated on the fight choreography of Harold Diamond, our late Grandmaster. And so all of your fitness and martial arts developed into your acting career. You went out and you did a film entitled Extreme Raheem, and then the one that we just played the trailer on, starring Eric Roberts from Batman, MMA Cop 1. You've also got MMA Cop 2 coming up. Let's tell all the fans out there about Extreme Raheem, where they can find that, MMA Cop 1, and how you're going to be filming MMA Cop 2 out in Spain. Raheem, let's tell all the fans about your films.
So Extreme Raheem, it's funny because that's kind of become one of my nicknames now. So Extreme Raheem was my first feature film that's available worldwide on Amazon Prime. It should be on Tubi still. In the UK, we don't get Tubi, so I'm not up to scratch with how that's being shown. But certainly Tubi, Amazon Prime, and like many other streaming channels. So Extreme Raheem was my first feature. So I had put that into film festivals. It was a case of, right, I've done some short films, I've done this and that, and it's like, it's time to make a feature. It's time to get it made. I'd met, during the course of I used to do security for about 6 or 7 years, 8 years even. And I met a lot of characters. And I actually met a girl who I said, she's an actress. And she had another friend who worked on Game of Thrones, actually. And it wasn't until a couple of years later I hit her up. I said, hey, look, I'm making this movie. Would you like to be involved? They were like, yeah, of course. And so there isn't like a household name, as it were, in Extreme Raheem. I mean, if I say that to people, they'll be like, oh, no, but you're becoming a household name. Like, okay, hopefully. But we made that with such a limited budget. It was, a labor of love. It was a very deep storyline. It's to do with rape. It is to do with sexual assault and the epidemic that's happening across the UK. I'm sure that goes on across the world. Now that is a subject that is very hard to tackle. And you can easily do it wrong, you can easily, but at the same time, it's been done before in many different ways, many different directors. It's very hit and miss, basically, but nevertheless, it is shocking no matter which way, you do it. So the film is me playing a cop. I think mostly action movies tend to be, the actor playing a cop in some sort of capacity. Well, no, this is Extreme Raheem.
Oh, okay.
And so basically, yeah, it was a pretty brutal film, and it did well in the film festivals, and then it got released, and for some, for a guy from London, I was happy to get a film distribution deal. I was like, wow, okay, cool. All these movies are being made with, considerable budgets, and then here's me, making this movie, and it got picked up, so I was, that was a good thing. And then I was like, right, you got to strike while the iron's hot, and you got to keep the momentum going. This was actually around lockdown, just after the so-called pandemic, after lockdown. And I was like, right, because I'm not sure how it was in the States, but in the UK, they were stopping people from even like driving from city to city. And I was like, fuck that, it's not happening. I'm not the type of person you can, keep me in a cage or you can tell me what to do. I'm just not, whether you want to chalk that down to, to personality, to testosterone levels, I don't know, but I'm very much like, I am gonna, if I set myself a target or a goal, or I just simply want to do something, or if I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. It's as simple as that. We started shooting MMA Cop in London and in I don't know if you've heard of Birmingham and Doncaster. Those are like towns sort of up north. Doncaster's a bit grim, but Birmingham is pretty cool. And it's again a very deep sort of like topic that we're touching on, which is sex trafficking. And obviously at that point, people had been talking about Epstein, however you want to pronounce it. And, I'll call him Jeff, Mr. Jeff. So that was already like a topic of conversation, if you like. It was after he supposedly had passed away in prison and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, well, there's many guys like Jeff. I'll refer to him as Jeff. There's many guys like him, that we don't know about. They've touched on it again in movies before. But I think in a long time they haven't. Most filmmakers and most movies, they don't touch those type of subjects anymore because they know they can get backlash. They know they can. It's very sensitive, basically. So filmmakers want to play it safe, and of course, like I said, I'm like, no, let's make this a topic in an action movie. Everyone wants to see the hero, kick some ass, basically, in an action film. And what better way to do it than to tackle, heinous crimes, heinous perpetrators, and it is a topic that, we all took seriously and stuff. Like I said, sex trafficking, and with everything that's come out recently as well, it's very much on par. It's very much like if you read certain released emails and stuff like that, it's incredibly like the similarities are there, basically, and the guy who plays the villain, my very good friend Jake, I mean, he did a phenomenal job. I mean, in real life, he's nothing like what he portrays. But, I can say, yeah, I play the hero, but then at the same time, you have to have a great villain. So his portrayal is, I think, is great. And it's interesting because he had met Eric Roberts. He's actually got some really good scenes with Eric in the upcoming sequel, which I'll talk about Eric in a minute. And even Eric said, he's like, dude, this guy is good. I was like, I know. He's like, no, this guy is really good. I said, I know, but trust me, I know. And it's like, for someone who's been referred to like by Mickey Rourke has said about Eric, he's one of the best actors he's seen and worked opposite and stuff. And then for Eric to say that about someone else, I was very proud of that. I was very proud and happy for him, and, to have people of that caliber, in my movie and, who I'm working with and stuff like that. Eric came on board actually at very last minute. So he had shot the majority of MMA Cop. And Eric, long story short, Eric was going to be in the UK. And I reached out to a guy who was his manager at the time. His name's Timothy. So Timothy actually, he had reached out to me years ago. He had connected with me on social media because I used to do interviews on YouTube. I had a YouTube channel. I still need to keep up. I haven't done it in a long time. But Timothy saw my interview with, I think, some of the Power Ranger actors, with Fred the Hammer Williamson, and he was like, good looking out, he was like, I like your style, and let's connect, and that was years ago. But when I had come to the States, when I came to LA for the first time, I met him in person. So he could see who I was. You know, he could tell, you know, I'm the real deal. And yeah, he helped connect Eric to be in MMA Cop, basically. But like, rest assured, he has a much bigger role in MMA Cop 2. So that's going to blow the first one out the water, and I am very proud of the first one. You know, and like I said, it's been released on Tubi and Amazon Prime and Verizon, Fandango, and yeah, it's doing well. It's somewhat of a cult. It has somewhat of a cult following so far, but yeah, it's about, you know, pushing that type of, you know, movie. And there is a void with masculine characters and action movies in general. That's why Stallone and Seagal and even Van Damme, they're still making, you know, 1 or 2 movies here and there, because no one's really filling that void. And I've said this before, you know, I'm not trying to be any one of those guys. There's loads of people that have tried to be the next this, the next that. And it's like, no, I want to be the first me, you know. But in that same line, that long line of actors, you know, movie stars that have had such an impact on society, you know, I would say with, you know, men, but with men and women, you know. So, you know, like I said, Stallone is an American treasure, really, you know, with Rocky and Rambo. And, you know, Van Damme is, you know, arguably one of the biggest international superstars. Everyone will know Van Damme, you know, all over the world, no matter where you go, you know. Same with Schwarzenegger as well, but I'm more, I guess, akin or fond of Van Damme. I resonate more with Van Damme, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah, MMA Cop is definitely, there will be a sequel to that. I know you have a liking for the female lead in the movie.
Yeah, that female actress she had, she was absolutely fabulous. The fellow who played the villain, what a great actor. You know, Eric Roberts is right. He was really good, man. So you had some extremely good supporting actors in the film. You know, their acting, their continuity, their body movement, their eye movement, everything was, you know, extremely high quality acting, you know, when it comes to acting. You know, my aunt, Marilyn Monroe, she was the smartest woman in the world. She had 162 IQ, higher than Albert Einstein. And if you look at all of her, when I look at her, I see my grandmother, because all of her eye movement, her continuity, her body movement is everything that my grandmother did. You know, my grandfather was Elizabeth Taylor's manager. He was Mickey Rooney's manager. He worked with Dean Martin from the Rat Pack. You know, Sammy Davis Jr., Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, Abbott Costello, the Marx Brothers, Groucho Marx, all these guys from the Golden Age, you know. So when I look at all of these Golden Age iconic actors and how, like Elizabeth Taylor's work ethic, she would work 14 hours on set. She had like this little chair, my grandfather's home, sat in this chair and she would read her lines and she would work 14 hours on set, and she was so beautiful. And same with my Aunt Marilyn Monroe. You know, they were great. Their work ethic was just tremendous. It's like Elizabeth Taylor would work 14 hours on set and then go home for 4 hours and study her lines for 4 more hours for the next day. So a lot of work goes into these films, you know. It's hard work that we put into this. And what you've done is extremely talented. You know, Eric Roberts is extremely talented. Timothy Beale, he's a world-class producer. You came up with some really good people in MMA Cop 1. I just want to tell you, though, my manager, Bruce Naheen at Janik Entertainment, he was an executive at Death Row Records for many years. He was Tupac Shakur's manager. He's also my manager. And we have salesmen that sell the films. So you've got MMA Cop on Tubi. MMA Cop 2, don't put it on Tubi. Don't put it on a streaming device. Don't have any money owed on it. Because when you make it, you're going to give it to me. I'm going to give it to my salesmen. And they're going to pitch Netflix and HBO. And they're going to sell MMA Cop 2 for you. And that's where you're going to make your money. people don't understand how much you have to put into this. It's pay to play in Hollywood. You've got to pay out of your own pocket. You've got to make these movies yourself. Then they have to be quality so that you can sell them and make money. You know, so it's a lot of hard work and a lot of you know, money and that you have to put in out of your own pocket. People don't understand that. So a suggestion, you know, don't, that MMA Cop 2, you know, when it comes out, you send it to me. I'll get it up to my salesman. The salesman will get it to HBO and Netflix. And then you can, you know, start monetizing yourself. And then once you're on Netflix and HBO, then they, you know, and they're successful, then, you know, then you start getting a big following. And then that's when the networks reach out to you and, you know, you start making more money. And so, so now I just wanted to do a real quick station identification break, folks. And, you know, I was just explaining the facilitation process in the motion picture industry. And so how it works, folks, it's how it works. It's tough. And so, and you've done a great job, Farid. Again, this is David Peace Monroe, Marilyn Monroe's nephew with the Marilyn Monroe Show, only on Jess TV. You can Google search us at jessfm.ca, www.jessfm.ca, ssh101.com. You can also live stream us on Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Meta TV, Fire TV, and the NCG Television Network in Lethbridge, Canada. A tremendous project with global distribution. Now, you've got the MMA Cop on Tubi, Amazon Prime, Verizon, and other streaming platforms people can watch. Let's talk about, you got MMA Cop coming up 2 in Spain. We're going to do our best to keep that a secret so you can make some money off that, and I can help you broker that film. We can sell that film, make, you know, monetize you for what you're doing as an actor, and you know, get some money put back in your pocket so you can make more films and become rich and famous. That's the name of the game. So let's talk about my film, Marilyn the Truth, where you have a role coming up. This is my biopic family perspective film, folks. Marilyn the Truth Forever Monroe. This is a story that's never been told. It's the true life history of my Aunt Marilyn Monroe and my family. And Farid's going to be my bodyguard and my limousine driver in the film. And I'm going to be starring in the film as her nephew. Just like Stephen King does. He'll do a little cameo role in all the films. So you'll see me in the film with Farid. He's going to be my bodyguard, my limo driver. And I just want to get your perspective, Farid. You know, you like all these action stars like Don Wilson, Cynthia Rothrock. Those are friends of mine, good friends of mine. You know, I attend events with them. And my grandfather worked with Elizabeth Taylor, Judy Garland, Raquel Welch, Dean Martin, Bob Hope, Ben Crosby, Abbott Costello, the Marx Brothers, all these great, you know, iconic actors. How do you feel about starring a role in a film that portrays all of these golden age actors in Marilyn the Truth Forever Monroe?
I mean, you know, what can you say? It's amazing. And obviously the time period you're talking about, the time period that, you know, the late, great Marilyn Monroe was doing her thing, you know, that was arguably the golden age of Hollywood. I don't think anyone can dispute that. I don't think anyone, you know, can. It's not up for debate. You know, that was the golden age of cinema. You know, and it really was when it was a craft. It really was when you had household name movie stars that were known throughout the world. You know, Spencer Tracy, Cary Grant. You know. My gosh, yeah, you know, Dean Martin, you know, the Frank Sinatra, you know, come on, like it's you know, Rock Hudson, you know, James Dean, it's every one of those people are like, you know, movie stars. They were like, there was like an A-list that it was insane, you know. Gene Kelly, you know, it's Sophia Loren, you know. I can go on, you know. These are all people that impacted, you know, worldwide, and obviously, you know, to be in something or to be associated really with something that portrays and kind of like recognizes and shines a light and creates art based on that time period and, you know, those individuals, those people, It's amazing, you know. It's certainly it's amazing, and I think again, it's one of those lost. It's like in the martial arts, because in a way, a lot of MMA now, it's lost the traditional sense of martial arts with Hollywood and with filmmaking. It's lost that. It's not to say it can't come back, but it has lost that. The way we look at movie stars, the way movie stars are, you know, and obviously that has a lot to do with the paradigm of filmmaking and technology and society. It's a very nuanced thing, but Hollywood in the golden age is, you know, to be associated with anything like that, you know, and just going off tangent a little bit, you know, in one way, I've had a taste of that, not only through you, but also through the late Grandmaster Harold Diamond, because he used to hang out with Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis was his essentially one of his mentors, you know, and they would hang out a lot. They would chill out, they would hang out and go to events together. And, you know, he's told me some crazy stories, you know, about the late great Tony Curtis. And yeah, you know, it's amazing, you know, and those type of movie stars, unfortunately, you know, there's only a few that I can count now, you know, especially who are still alive from that age, who are active in that time period, you know. So it's an amazing you know, it's an amazing place and time period, and, you know, sort of product, if you like, to be associated with. So yeah, it's a pleasure, you know.
Yeah, Tony Curtis, that's Jamie Lee Curtis's father. And he was married to the actress from Psycho, the blonde who gets killed in the shower.
Janet Leigh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go, yeah. You know,
yeah.
So what a great history and lineage that we have, and people we worked with, who they worked with, projects they put out, projects we're putting out. It's absolutely fabulous. And you have another film that you're involved with because you're extremely involved with basketball. You have a film that you're working on called The Sex Tapes of Basketball. Tell us about Sex Tapes of Basketball, Farid.
Sex Tapes and Basketball, yeah. So it's, as the title suggests, or at least, you know, I like to make sure that you get what you see in the title. You know, there are titles of movies that have nothing to do with the movie, but when you look at a title like Sex Tapes and Basketball, you're going to get sex tapes and basketball, basically. So it's about an ex-pro athlete who goes on the run after he's framed for murder, and he has a whole load, or rather a hard drive, a bag load of cash and incriminating evidence on politicians and bigwigs and you know, important people, basically. So he has to race against time to clear his name and to get some justice, basically, you know. So it touches on crimes of a heinous nature, you know, and obviously, again, with a lot of stuff that has come out recently, and this is an unfortunate truth, again, with Epstein files and stuff like that, it titillates the public when it sickens, and it should sicken. And I'm shocked anyone who isn't sickened, who's read and even seen some of the images and emails and stuff that has come out. However, as you know, the age-old saying and the way humans are, and the way the media has been so successful, is that when they put out headlines, when they put out scandals, when they show anything, I guess, to do with celebrities, especially, you know, or people in positions of power and stuff like that, it's usually of a sexual nature, and those are the type of headlines that gain attraction simply because it titillates people, you know, and I say that in a, you know, I say that in a disgusted way, but that's the way the media operates. You know, they titillate their audiences with those type of scandals. You know, that's why most news in mainstream news is bad news. You know, it's not good news. You know, where are the things about education? Where are the things about, you know, gardens being grown? Where are the things about, you know, breakthroughs in medical science and stuff? The majority of people, that doesn't sustain people's, you know, unfortunately, that's not what sustains people's sort of
Captivation.
Captivation doesn't captivate them. That's the right word, you know. But then when you look at outlets, and this is not throwing shade. In fact, I'm not going to mention, you know, there are certain outlets in Hollywood, for instance, that are very notorious, but they've literally built their careers off those type of headlines, those type of subjects, that type of news. You know, if you look at scandals with, my gosh, I'm trying to think. There's so many, you know. There's so many, you know. That's the type of sort of subject I'm touching. But for once, I'm not playing a cop. I'm playing an ex-basketball player, and yeah, it's evolved into an action comedy. It was meant to be much more of a darker tone, but it's actually evolved into an action comedy, which I guess works. I am in talks with quite a big name who wants to be involved. I mean, it's already a yes, based on what he's read and his character and his involvement. But I'm not going to mention it just yet. I'm trying to raise money for it, but we are halfway through the movie. But in terms of star power, name power, this is a very well-respected, well-known, world-renowned gentleman who wants to be part of the film. And I will say this, a lot of filmmakers, a lot of independent filmmakers are trying to get this man in their movies. And it's not a case of money. It's not a case of I want to work and stuff. It's not a case of I'm going to help you because, you know, there has to be an element at this point of I like you, I like what you're trying to do, and I want to help you achieve that. And attaching my name, you know, he's not going to attach his name to some bullshit, put it that way. Yeah, we shall see where it goes, but hopefully very soon it will happen, basically. But I'm halfway through that, and we started pre-production on MMA Cop 2. So those are the two movies that I guess will up the ante for me as a filmmaker and for me as an actor. But again, it's dealing with subjects that people and filmmakers don't want to touch, but it has the entertainment value with the action, with the comedy, with how, you know, I do stuff, you know, as a filmmaker. And yeah, it's just about forging ahead, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, what a great deal, you know, and we're not worried about filmmakers. We're worried about the networks. I have a direct contact with Netflix and HBO. HBO. So you make that MMA cop movie, you get it to me, I get it up to my salesman. They pitch HBO and Netflix, they buy it, they run it on the network, it's successful. The next thing you know, you got Netflix and HBO throwing money and applaud your way, and you're rich and famous, man. That's how it works, you know. So I'm that guy, that middleman, you know, where I have a tremendous advantage with Jesse Parmar and Jess TV. He's been very gracious to sponsor me for a couple of years now. This is my second season. So this, you know, interview is a pitch deck in itself that you can keep to your records. I keep for my records. I send it to my salesmen. They review it. It's like a preview, you know. They're looking for these upcoming projects. I can go down to my entertainment gatherings. I can pitch them in front of my entertainment circle. My entertainment circle is Black Hollywood. We collaborate with, and as you recollect, my aunt's best friend was Ella Fitzgerald, who did a lot of jazz music with Louis Armstrong with the horn and things, and they were fabulous. And so we collaborate with directors and producers from Tyler Perry Studios and also Spike Lee Studios, who've done tremendous multi-million-dollar projects. You know, so these are successful producers and directors that are in my network. I'm successful. I've got my show. You're successful. We've got a sales team who, you know, pitch the big networks and HBO and Netflix. So we've got a great group, you know, and my manager, Bruce Naheen, formerly Tupac Shakur's manager, you know, he was executive at Death Row Records for many years, a member of the Producers Guild, a film festival judge. You know, he was a film commissioner. He used to have a bungalow across from Alfred Hitchcock at Warner Brothers Studios. So we've got a great team that I have assembled, and, you know, we can get your movie and we can sell your movie. You know, that's what we do. And just a quick station identification break, folks. Again, my name is David Monroe, Marilyn Monroe's nephew. Marilyn Monroe Show on Jess TV Live on Facebook. You can also Google search us at jessfm.ca, www.jessfm.ca, ssh101.com, and live stream us with global distribution on Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, Meta TV, and the NCG Television Network in Lethbridge, Canada. Tremendous project with global distribution, folks. That's every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time in the United States. And if you're over in United Kingdom where Farid's at, it's 9 hours difference. So it would be 6 p.m. Or 7 p.m. United Kingdom or Europe time. You want to tune in with global distribution to the Marilyn Monroe Show with your host, David Peace Monroe, only on Jess TV. Now, we want to talk about, finally, Farid, the mysterious, tragic death of our mentor and what the fight choreography was predicated on in your MMA cop films, Harold Diamond. Once again, Harold Diamond was the greatest K1 kickboxing champion in the world. He had over 400 fights undefeated. The only other great K1 kickboxer in the world was Branko Cikatic. He was the first K1 winner, and he was 133-2. Those two losses, folks, were to our late Grandmaster Harold Diamond, who had over 400 professional fights undefeated. Over 400 fights, folks. And that's why you see him in Universal Soldier. That's why you see him in Rambo. So, you know, I've done a lot of investigation behind the people in Thailand that are surrounding his mysterious death. I believe he was murdered. I believe there was foul play. And you have done a lot of research yourself surrounding all of the people that were living with Harold. You have films of tapes from the people at his home, splitting up all his goods and things in his house, you know, the people who were living there. So there's an investigation going on, and we're investigating Harold's death. So, you know, Harold was like the father I never had. Harold, you know, me and Harold could be transparent. I could tell him anything about my life. Not only was he, you know, a martial arts legend, but he was my mentor, and he was like the dad I never had. Me and Harold would have conversations at 5 o'clock in the morning. He would call me up, and we'd go on for 2 or 3 hours, you know, about Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, Sylvester Stallone, all of these people and their personal lives, my personal life, his personal life. Benny Urquidez at the Bennett Jet Center, you know, Cynthia Rothrock, Don Wilson. You know, he was involved with everyone, the martial arts industry. So I know everything about everybody, you know, and, you know, we keep that to ourselves, but something we don't talk about people's personal lives. But we were very transparent with each other, let's just put it that way. And Harold, you know, is a very tragic loss for me. And I've been like at a loss without Harold Diamond. So tell us, Farid, your take on the mysterious death of Harold Diamond in Thailand.
So, I mean, without obviously playing the speculation game and, you know, going off tangent, which I seem to do a lot. I always do. firstly, Harold was, it goes back to what I was talking about with films and filmmaking and stuff. Harold was one of the people I noticed when I was young. He might have had a much smaller film career compared to a lot of the stars that we know. Certainly it wasn't his aim to be a movie star, but when you watch him in movies, he's done lower budget movies like Killing American Style and Gypsy, which are directed by Amir Shavan, who ultimately directed Samurai Cop. And I'm actually going to put a little anecdote here because nobody knows this. Harold told me this himself. And so Samurai Cop became a huge cult movie. It's arguably one of the best or the best. So good. It's so bad it's good movies, right? I think that came out in 1990 or 1991. It was a rip-off Lethal Weapon, basically. Harold was meant to be in that movie, but then he had a falling out with the director, Amir. And long story short, the director was basically looking for a muscular guy with long hair. So he ended up casting Matt Hannon, aka Matt Caridas, who I've actually linked up with since, so this is like a weird sort of like, it's such a big world, but at the same time it's such a small world. But so Harold did like he starred in a couple of low budget movies. He also did Train to Kill. That was a great movie. He was meant to be Tong Po in Kickboxer. He was signed. It was signed, sealed, and delivered. But ultimately, I think obviously with Van Damme's star power, or star rather, rising, he was able to call the shots where he got his friend Mohammed Kisi. Mohammed Kisi played Tong Po, and he did a fantastic job. He did a great job. I guess in a way it was meant to be. You can look at it like that. But Harold was given these opportunities. That's the thing. He didn't chase this type of stardom. He was a fighter that became a trainer, a very valuable trainer, possibly the most valuable trainer. And so basically, how I got involved with Harold is after I'd done Extreme Raheem, I had been putting out a lot of I used to be more active on social media, but it's I guess it's what they call, a necessary evil. If I wasn't doing movies, I wouldn't necessarily be out there on social media. I think if you're creative, if you're an actor, if you're in that space, you have to utilize it in the right way, basically. But initially, when I was trying to promote my movie, I was also putting out risque stuff. I would post about, me out in LA and stuff like that. And I guess, and this is going back 2019 and stuff like that. And I had already connected with him a few years before that on Facebook. I'd reached out to him. We didn't really talk much. He was like, "Who are you?" I said, "You don't know me, but I am a big fan of yours, And I have been, if you go back on some of my posts like 15 years ago and stuff, I'm like, the long hair, like Harold Diamond and stuff like that, because he stood out to me as a character, let alone his fight career. But then he reached out to me out of the blue, because we were already connected. He called me on Messenger. And I was like, did I piss him off? Why is he calling me? Why is his name on my phone? Why is he, why is he reaching out to me? Did I post something that he didn't like? Did I say Muay Thai is bad? I was like, well, of course not. I think that's all. It's awesome, No, what did I say? What did I, what possibly, why is he calling me? So I'm like, hello. And he's like, dude, I fucking love you. And I'm like, oh, really? And I guess my personality, or the way, in one way or another, we he saw himself in me, which looking at it now is such a huge fucking compliment. It really is, you know. And we basically hit it off from there, basically. And of course, look, there are a lot of, and it's not really bragging. It's over the last few years, there are a lot of legit movie stars, martial arts stars, people involved in that world who do follow me on social media, but they don't say anything. Some do, but some they keep tabs, but they don't say anything, but they see my sort of like my rise. But Harold was like very much like, I need to, at this point, he's seen enough. Let's connect, basically. So from that point forward, we forged like an amazing friendship. And like you said, he, being, such a friend to you, same thing, to me, could be extremely transparent. The stuff that he shared with me was just, I mean, it's we can go on for ages. But when he passed away in 2024, it was a shock. It was an absolute shock. We can go. I'm going to give you like my streamlined opinion, basically, on it. First and foremost, he had a huge impact on me, and he's probably one of the most underrated. It's insane. His wealth of knowledge, his skill to peak so young, and then when because he was on the set of the Kickboxer remake, and then you got guys like George St. Pierre and Dave Bautista bowing to him, showing such respect, showing such love, in awe of a martial arts grandmaster. It's insane. So it just goes to show just how much of an impact he had in that world. When he passed away, there was a lot that me and some close friends and some students of his that were trying to do. Now, at that point in time, I'm in London. He's in Phuket, Thailand. Rawai, Thailand. And his other students are scattered across, the world. One's in Canada. One's in Australia. And then one's in, and there's a few back in Florida, and we're trying to figure out what happened. Some people think, look, the official thing is he passed away, from Parkinson's, and it's not something he shared with other people because he didn't want to burden other people. Do I think it's foul play? Well, you don't. Even Stevie Wonder can see that this is not normal. It's still an ongoing thing, and definitely justice needs to be served. And he has been cremated. He was cremated like literally a few days after he passed away and stuff. The guy left behind so much there's equipment, there's photos, there's so much stuff, and it's like, yeah. So me, along with you, and along with a lot of his friends and a lot of his students, are still trying to get to the bottom of it, and we won't rest. Like I said, I don't want to play the speculation game where, I can say this and say that. There's so much to talk about. But ultimately, yes, he had a huge impact on me. And one of my biggest regrets, and I don't live in regret. I'm not someone who lives in regret. I look, hindsight is a wonderful thing, as they say. But one of the things, if I have to say, I regret a certain thing, it's not being there and kind of like not seeing the signs of I should just get all my money, what I have, buy a one-way ticket, and just jump on a plane and go there. So that's one of my, if I have one of my regrets in life. But like I said, you live and learn, and it's an ongoing thing, as you know. It just I want to celebrate like his one beautiful thing actually that came out of it was I became very good friends with an Irish bare knuckle boxer / comedian, the Shadow Boxer, aka Paul Flaherty. Lovely guy. We became friends. In fact, he's the one who told me. He's the one who alerted me and told me that Harold had passed away. But then we become good friends since then. I'm supporting his journey. He's supporting my journey. Where we've got two different paths, but we're still we're trying to get to the same place, as it were. But Harold Diamond, as a martial artist, listen, like in private training, and this is not a knock on Don Wilson. I love Don the Dragon Wilson. I love him. Like I got all his movies, but there was an incident in training where Harold won. Harold unofficially fought him, and Harold was the man standing. Same thing with Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yep.
Sugar Ray Leonard. So Harold went into an all-black gym. He was the only white boy there. He sparred with Sugar Ray Leonard. He dropped Sugar Ray Leonard. He dropped him. People don't drop Sugar Ray Leonard just like that. The man was one of the best boxers, super fast, and basically all the guys there were like, that's the fastest white boy I've ever seen. So it's and those are just like examples of his mastery, basically. And also, I just want to say this as well. A lot of people forget this. So there's a scene in Rambo 3, amazing movie. There's a scene in Rambo 3, and Stallone does a spin kick when he fights the Russian. I think it's just after he blows up the helicopter or just before, but it's in that scene. It's like in the latter half of the movie. That's Harold doing the spin kick. That's Harold stunt doubling for Stallone. I've seen other people talk. I've heard like the late Stephen Lambert say something about, or he wasn't sure. I'm not sure. I'm not going to quote, but like I've seen him talk about it. Put it that way. People can talk, but for some reason, this is like a people are debating this or not sure about this. But I'll tell you what, I am sure about this. Harold Diamond did that spin kick. He stood in for Stallone to do that kick in Rambo 3. So yeah, but I mean, there's so much. There's so much. Vin Diesel, before Vin Diesel was coming up, he had just done Saving Private Ryan, I believe, and his agent, Harold was training his agent. This is another anecdote. Harold was training his agent, or rather his friend / not agent, but the head of Interscope at the time. So yeah, a lot of stuff to do, with the hip hop music. It was huge. Harold went to dinner and he was introduced to this actor called Vin Diesel, who was going to become a huge action star. And they were like, "Yeah, Vin does a bit of boxing." They were like, "Do you want to go and spar and stuff like that?" And Vin, very wisely, said, "You know what? No. I'm just an actor. Like, no, I'm not going to spar with Harold Diamond. No. Wise choice." So yeah, I just want people, especially a lot of martial artists. Look, it's not a secret that Harold did burn a lot of bridges because he had such a strong personality, but he also drew a lot of jealousy because he had that aura, this aura that people talk about. He had it, he had it all. But he wasn't about that, trying to be a superstar, trying to be a movie star or anything like that. He loved the martial arts, and then he loved to teach. He loved to connect with like-minded people. but he was very headstrong, and it's a blessing and a curse because I can 100% associate with it. You know, it's very much a case of it's like making movies. You know, there isn't one movie that everybody loves. There's gonna be someone that has something to say about it. I mean, you look at a film like Heat, Robert De Niro, Pacino, you know, even great kickboxer Jerry Trimble's in it, you know, Val Kilmer, amazing movie. There's still going to be people that say, "Oh yeah, it wasn't that good," or "It was a shit movie," or "It could have been better," or you know. So again, with people, strong personalities and you know jealousy and stuff like that, it's you know, it's that's what Harold had to endure, basically, you know. So, like I said, I'm not going to talk too much about it. Because it's not right to do it on, you know, but I think a lot of people should be aware that yes, he was just an amazing martial artist, an amazing teacher, an amazing mentor, and you know, unfortunately, he passed away. But you know, if I can even help, kind of like keep his spirit alive, there are a lot of great martial artists out there that have trained under his system, Congo Do. Shout out Brett Moses, shout out Chuck Daly. There are a lot of guys that, again, through Harold, I've connected, or through the loss of Harold, I've connected with. So yeah, I'm looking forward to you know, to meeting and training with those guys, and you know, keep it going on my own journey. And I know for a fact Harold, you know, wanted me to succeed where a lot of other people have failed, basically, and that's a real one, you know, especially in this day and age where people will look at this interview and secretly they want you to do well, you know. It's the people that have reached out to me are people that I actually haven't even met in person, you know. Online I get so many messages, you know, but the people I have met in person, it's a different agenda, you know. So it's and that's very common. It's the age old thing, you know. It's I don't want to say that's life, but like that's, you know, it's that's the yin and yang, you know. You have the good and the bad in life, you know. You have the good and bad in life, and you know, something like the martial arts, something like you know, that, you know, that's one thing that helps you navigate through life and disciplines you, and I would like to think makes you a better person in all realms, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, Harold was, he was like the dad I never had. Obviously, you can see I'm upset. So that's something that I'll be upset about until I probably won't ever get over. But, you know, we'll find some justice. You know, when I get this film up and I make my millions in the motion picture industry, I'm going to go back down to Thailand. I'm going to buy his house, and those crooked Thailand police that are down there, I'm going to go pay them personally to go do an investigation of these folks, and we're going to have them locked away in prison where they belong. Yes, for a long time. Harold Diamond, like I said, he was the #1 K1 premier stand-up combat sport kickboxing champion in the world, over 400 professional fights, undefeated. He told me when he went in, and Lewis Banks, I know you're watching, you're good friends with Sugar Ray Leonard, Uncle Lewis. He told me he beat Sugar Ray Leonard like a redheaded stepchild. That's a big statement, and he did. He also was in the ring at the Ben and Jet Center with Don Wilson, and he told me that he kneed Don Wilson in the liver on accident, gave him a liver shot, and put Don out for like 6 weeks. And he said, Dave, he said, man, it took Don like 6 months to forgive me for that, you know. He says, I didn't mean to do it. He said it was just a, you know, accidental knee to his liver. So yeah, you know, he's, you know, trained, you know, Don's an 11-time, you know, pro kickboxing champion of the world. You know, he's been in over 30 martial arts action films. So these are great players that we're working with here. And Harold's, legacy will not be forgotten. It will live in your films. It will live in me and my films. And we'll continue to, have his legacy live in the Monroe universe, in my family legacy, your family legacy, and we'll continue to make more films. Like I said, Harold, 133-2. Bronco Sikatich was the greatest K1 winner ever. And the only two losses in 133-2 record were to Harold Diamond. Trainer of the Grandmasters, Universal Soldier, Rambo 3. That's why Harold got all the big roles in the martial arts action films, because he was the best in the world. And, martial artists, they're pompous, they've got big egos, their head is blown up, and, nobody could beat Harold. So, there's no wonder a lot of people didn't like him, because they weren't like him. They couldn't beat him. Just one more station identification break, folks, and then I'm going to have to close out here. The hour's up. Farid, we had a great show. Thanks for coming on. Again, the station identification break. My name is David Monroe, Marilyn Monroe's nephew with the Marilyn Monroe Show, only on Jess TV Live on Facebook. You can also Google search us at jessfm.ca, www.jessfm.ca, ssh101.com. You can also live stream us, folks, with global distribution on Roku TV, Android TV, Fire TV, Meta TV, and the NCG, Apple TV, and the NCG Television Network in Lethbridge, Canada. A tremendous project with global distribution. That's NCG Television in Italy with global distribution, folks. Tune in every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for the morning show, The Marilyn Monroe Show, with your host, David Teese Monroe. And Farid, tell us tell all the fans where people can find you on social media. Do you have a TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook? Where can they find your movies? And tell them where they can find. So it's Tubi, you've got Amazon Prime, and you've got several social media platforms. Tell all the fans where they can find you.
Sure. So I'm not hard to find on social media. You can put my name in, Farid Jamal Khan, and I should come up on different platforms. I'm trying to use social media a lot more now because I had kind of gone off it for a while, purely because, if it wasn't for the movies, I wasn't using it. But I found that there are a lot of people that, want to interact and, want to see videos and reels from me. So I will be more active on Instagram and TikTok. I'm at FJK_action. I may be creating some other channels as well, but certainly YouTube, I'm going to be using that a lot more. FJK, Farid Jamal Khan, on YouTube. There'll be a lot more videos, interviews with celebs, but also clips from my movies, trailers, and anything to do with action and martial arts, but also kind of like 80s and 90s nostalgia. Because that is something I did, and it's something that I'll continue to do. And there are people that, do find it entertaining. So yeah, I'll be doing that. For my movies, yeah, absolutely. Check out my latest movie, MMA Cop, which is now streaming on Tubi and on Amazon Prime in the US and Canada. Extreme Raheem, my first movie, is streaming Amazon, Tubi, worldwide, but MMA Cop has been officially released in the US and Canada. So yeah, Tubi and Amazon Prime, Verizon, Fandango at home, and a few other streaming channels. So it shouldn't be too hard to find. Starring Eric Roberts from Best of the Best, Runaway Train, The Dark Knight, The Expendables, you name it. He's, a consummate professional. And he will have a much bigger role, and I will say we have a fight scene as well in the sequel. There will be other big names involved, but stay tuned to find out who they will be. So yeah, those are the movies you can find, and yeah, be on the lookout for Sex Tapes and Basketball and MMA Cop 2 in production. So yeah, it's yeah, anyone who likes the old school type of action movies, but with a contemporary flair that are contemporary, it's, you know, it's for you basically, you know. It brings awareness to certain topics, but with, you know, the hero and the sort of like the good guys getting justice, you know, because after all, entertainment is there to entertain, and if it can educate, great, you know, and if it gives you a bit of escapism for an hour and a half, you know, so be it. And yeah, I appreciate people who reach out to me, and it's quite interesting seeing people that I've had posters off on my wall notice and reach out to me and kind of like, you know, are kind of, you know, seeing my ascent basically, which is pretty cool. And thank you, David, for having me on the show, and you know, for giving me a platform. I appreciate it. I appreciate, you know, being a brother, being a friend, and you know, getting connected. So yeah, and shout out to Jesse for making it happen. Shout out to Jess TV. Yep,
yeah, we appreciate you coming on the show. My brother from another mother, Farid Jamal Khan from London. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll bring you on again later on when you have some more upcoming projects. And don't forget to be looking at him in production. My bioptic family perspective film, Marilyn, the Truth Forever Monroe, is in production, folks. So you be upcoming and looking for Farid in that film as well. Thanks for coming on the show. And next week, folks, you can tune in to the Marilyn Monroe Show. I have another fabulous mixed martial artist in Mordecai Martial Arts, Robert H. Mason from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, who's also a psychologist and a musician. He's got some soundtrack and some music that's just outstanding. You can look forward to him next week on March the 1st at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Marilyn Monroe Show. Once again, that's jessfm.ca, www.jessfm.ca, ssh101.com. Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, Meta TV, and the NCG Television Network in Lethbridge, Canada. A tremendous project with global distribution. Tune in every Sunday morning to the morning show, the Marilyn Monroe Show, with your host, David T. Monroe. And next week, folks, we've got Robert H. Mason from Fort Lauderdale, Mordecai Martial Arts, psychologist, and fabulous musician and soundtrack will be on the show. Farid, my brother from another mother, thanks for coming on the show today. And we'll see you folks next week.
Thank you.
Hello, sweet cheeks. You're going to be the star of my new film, huh?
Little boys like you do not seem to see the big picture.
Have you ever heard about babies getting sold?
What, for sex trafficking?
Money is a commodity just like oil and water. The City of London, the global financial centre, is the best brand there is in the world.
Young girls.
They want to see pain, so do I!
What do you want from me?
We do this my way.
I trust you.
Captain Jones giving you more problems if I'm his wife. Take care of it.
You tell me, who else you performed in my operation?
My child and my good buds. You got up to your little boy.
Just not one group business.
Oh my gosh!
The establishment.
Don't come in my club and threaten me.
You better tell me what I want to know.
History is not made by the truth. It's made by what people believe is the truth.
I'm the most respected in my field. Do the right thing.
Please, I want to live. One white boy, my cool brother. Let me show you what they do to pretty boys like you in prison, yeah?
Take a stand.
Definitely not your driving.